Hey jackals, so I built my new PC and you should go totally watch that video, just not yet, at the end of this video, but what I want to show you is my experience when switching from Windows to Linux. Now let's get digital. To install the Linux, I'll be using Ventoy. What is Ventoy? A new bootable USB solution. Go to the download section and you should go to the GitHub. Now you can also download it from this website, but as you can see in the description, you should support them by going to the GitHub. And once you do, go to the bottom and simply install the installation that you want. You can use the one for Linux or the one for Windows. Once you have Ventoy downloaded, unpack it and simply launch it. The window will pop up. This will show all of the USBs that you have in. In my case, I only have one, so that one is automatically shown. Simply click install and wait for this to finish. Once it's finished, put all of the ISOs of the OSs that you have onto the Ventoy USB, and if you need, you can also put other files. And this will not interfere with the bootable USB installation. Now to install one of the OSs that you put onto the Ventoy USB stick, you will have to go to the BIOS, enable the USB stick to be the first bootable device, and once you boot in, you should see something like this. So the screen should display all of the OSs that you have on the USB stick. Simply select the one that you want to install and follow the simple instructions. And in my case, I installed Linux Mint, which looks nice and has a welcome screen that guides you, and also it has software manager that allows you to easily install apps. Most of the time anyway. Some applications come with the app image extension, which is similar to the portable solution that Windows has. So in this case, what you have to do is right click on the app that you download and enable the option so that you can launch it. And then you'll simply be able to double click on it. Now in this case, we don't see really much. This is a text editor, but if I use the font base, as you can see, it will simply work. Now I can also enable the Google fonts, but in this case I don't want to enable all of them, so I'll simply close it. Now I like to use my keyboard using the Bluetooth functionality, not the cable, but one of the keyboards was not detected at all and the other one couldn't sync. Now this is a known issue with the Linux Mint, but this also depends on what keyboard you have. To make my tutorial videos, I need some kind of mouse highlight functionality and also a keyboard functionality, but I didn't find anything useful in the Linux. They do have the focus, but you have to press Ctrl, which in Windows, they have a lot more options. They have power tools. I will go over this in a separate videos, but in this case they also have the focus. You have to press Ctrl twice, but they also have the left and mouse button clicks. And as for the keyboard, I could simply use an auto hotkey script. I'll leave a link to that video in the description and I'll also pop it up. Now one thing that I noticed with the drives is that I wasn't able to access them. Well, I could access them, but I couldn't actually add anything to them. So what you can do, if that happens to you, is to install the gparted, which is like a partition tool. You will simply type this in to open this window up, and you can select all of the drives on the right side. You will have to select individual ones. Let me pause at this point. It is not ideal if you want to dual boot Windows and Linux, because you can have the same issue with the disk, but in that case, don't use this method as it deletes the whole data on the disk, which is not what you want if you want to dual boot. And to dual boot, you will need the NTSF file system, which if you only use Linux, you should use ext4. You will then right click and delete the partition. You'll want to deselect the drive from every window and also disable it so you don't have any issues when you do this step. To open the disk windows, simply type in disks and this window will open up. Now as you can see, I don't have any drive, so I'll make a new one. So right click, make a new one, give it a name, and I'll also have the same label. And as for the file type, because this is Linux, I'll leave it to ext4. And then simply wait for this step to finish. It took about 20 seconds. Once this is done, you still won't see the disk in the file system, and if you right click in gparted, you won't be able to mount it, so you'll go to disk and press the play button. This will mount the disk. Now in the scratch disk, as you can see, I can make new files and folders. in the archive I still can't. So the next step is to go to the terminal, type in sudo -s. This will give you the super user account privileges. Type in the password, copy this path, you will need it later on. Then we have to change the owner permission, so change owner, type in the owner, in this case jackalldigital, jackalldigital, and paste in the path name that you copied. Now when you do this, you shouldn't see any changes, but if I right click, I can now make files and folders. And to give you a quick demo, I'll just make a folder. As you can see, I can make it, I can access it, and I can delete it. Now it was mostly okay up to this point, but then I installed DaVinci Resolve and OBS to do some testing. When I wanted to record something in the OBS for the second time, something was off. And that something was the installation of DaVinci Resolve. The path that I have set in DaVinci Resolve as the media storage has somehow overwritten the name of the drive. And the second thing in DaVinci Resolve was with the plugin. I wanted to install the Dehancer plugin, which I could, but for some reason it just failed to load. And when I uninstalled it, DaVinci Resolve still detected it, which is strange. Now I did contact the Dehancer plugin developer and mentioned the issue, and they explained that Linux Mint is not supported, but Ubuntu is. But that is a bit strange because Linux Mint is Ubuntu based. But what do I know about Linuxes? And now the last nail in this Linux coffin was with Unity. Well, the Unity installed fine, but when I wanted to open any scripts, these windows popped up. Multiple of them, anytime I opened the script. So is this a Unity issue or a Visual Studio Code issue? I don't know, and I didn't have the time to find out. As you can see, I did follow the steps to install the missing files, but at this point I had enough of Linux and I would still need to install the soundcore drivers. But let's not end on a negative. Do you know about the feedback sandwich? You have the positive, the negative, and the positive. So let's end on a positive note. I will give Linux a second chance, just not quite yet. And I'll do it on a PC that I don't need to use immediately. Because I know that we can do anything that we want, we just have to focus. I imagine that Linux is nice to use, especially if you can install everything that you need, which I didn't manage to do. But Linux Mint that I wanted to use is one of the best Linux distributions, especially if all you used before was Windows. If you found this video enjoyable, you know what to do. And if you have any experience using Linux, and Linux Mint especially, and if you have any tips on how I could fix the issues that I faced, please let me know. I'm Simon, and until next time, jackals, keep it digital.